Hey all, in this section we're talking about the balance of your diet in relation to the macronutrients. If you're not familiar with macronutrients, they are comprised of fats, protein, and carbohydrates. So the things that fuel our body or that have caloric value. When you're looking at balancing your diet or the recommendations for what your intake should be, we can start with fats, right? So you've probably heard the typical diet is always off of like a 2,000 calorie recommendation. Like they're saying 30% of those or less than 30% of those calories should come from fat. So if you were to look at it in terms of like how many grams or how many calories can come from fat, right? 2,000, 30% of that is 600 calories. And then you would extrapolate out like how many grams you would be able to eat based on its caloric density, right? Within fats, there's a subsector, right? There's saturated fats, which usually comes from animal fats. They're hard at room temperature, and the recommendation is currently less than 10% of your fat calories come from saturated fats. And the other part of that is understanding that it's got an extreme relationship with cardiovascular disease. So saturated fat increases your risk for cardiovascular disease and obviously impacts health in the long term. And it's actually been lowered, or the recommendations have kind of come up to like 6 or 7% of your total fat calories. There's also another subsect that's called trans fats, which 0 are recommended in terms of your diet, and that's like margarine and stuff. So it's kind of lost a phase from like what the fad from when I was a young kid, and margarine was all the hype. The next macronutrient area is protein. This typically isn't a problem for your standard American diet. We probably actually ingest more protein that's needed. Your total recommendation should be between 12 to 15%. I know bodybuilders and whatnot like talk about 1 gram of protein per pound, right? That obviously it exceeds it, but you're getting your required allotment if you're sitting at like 12 to 15% of your total diet. The next one is carbohydrates, and carbohydrates, come from fruits, vegetables, plants, legumes, nuts, like those sorts of things. And you're looking at the bulk of your diet coming from 55 to 60%, or 55 to 60% of your total calories coming from carbohydrates or a carbohydrate source. Within there, we want to try to limit our sugar or simple carbohydrates to less than 10% of your total calories. So that's just simple things like that are high in sugar, right? So yeah, rice is fine. Potatoes are fine. Potatoes are great for you. Sweet potatoes even better. Just more minerals, vitamins, and minerals that are involved in that. But yeah, you certainly want to like look at your calorie intake or your carb intake, see what's going in, and just try to figure out what your needs are from there. Everyone always has questions. It's like, look, start with your protein intake based upon like the calories you need, like in terms of what your goals are. Calories in equals calories out, like no weight gain, and then you can change the equation. Calories in greater than calories out, right? You're going to increase weight, and then vice versa. Or your calories in are less than calories out, you're going to be able to lose weight. But anyhow, also within carbohydrates, there's a nutrient source called fiber. You've probably heard of it. That also comes from like fruits, vegetables, like skins of apples, like things like that. They're non-digestible for us, so they don't actually have a caloric intake or a caloric value in our bodies. But they do help like things run a little bit more smoothly. And the recommendation there is to get like 20 to 35 grams of fiber every day. So when you guys are starting to look at like what your nutrients are, or like what your calories are and the things you're putting in your body, it'd be interesting to start like calculating like where you fall within these ranges and then try to adapt your diet from there. But Again, balance of macronutrients. This is like the easiest way to track your food coming in and really help meet your health and fitness goals.